Sleeping on these lessons that I'm spilling from my cup. 3 rings on my fingers, but it's never enough. Stand up and deliver when the going gets rough. I gotta laugh when your credit is to love, but I'm still giving it back and you just ain't giving up. You got me on a mission. Come on and find me. I'm looking for a vision. Come see what I see.
Welcome into another Inner Circle preview show, another Wednesday, another What If Wednesday. We're just gonna jump right in. My goal for 2024 is to rebrand all Wednesdays to What If Wednesdays. Sean, how's it sound?
That sounds pretty good. I like the alliteration. It just flows. What if Wednesdays are awesome? What if Wednesdays are awesome? I don't know.
What if we could claim a day of the week? Listen, Jeff Bezos did it a couple years ago when he bought the post office on Sundays.
Yes.
So if we can't take Wednesdays, then I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah. Sounds like a good goal for 2024.
Big goal, big irrelevant goal. And we're going to talk about relevant and irrelevant goals. So this is live, whether you're watching this live with us, welcome, first of all, or the recording. It is December 27th, the date of this recording. So we're talking about Q1. Talking about your plan of execution. What do your next 12 weeks look like? And how do you make sure you set yourself up for actual progress and growth in 2024? I was actually, Sean, talking to my wife last night about, she got invited to some, yeah, we communicate sometimes. It's novel. It's amazing. With 3 kids, we find a way to communicate. But outside of that, no, we were talking about, she got invited to some like planning party where a bunch of women are going to plan their years out. And I said, that sounds like the dumbest thing ever, because they're trying to plan their whole year at one time. But we do that in business too. Am I right? I've been part of those meetings. You've been part of those meetings. That's a big chunk. Why are we not talking about the whole year? We're just talking about the first 12 weeks.
Well, speaking of irrelevance, elephants, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So this is a very real problem that we all know exists at this time of year, where we're all stuffed with Christmas goose and the pounds are escalating and we're getting towards New Year's Eve and everyone's thinking about their resolutions and they're going to change the world this is the year that they're going to be on the cover of GQ magazine by the summer, that's it. I'm eating 0 sugar, and they overpromise and then underdeliver. They're burnt out. They pour so much of what they're trying to do, backed by willpower, to force themselves towards this too attenuated goal sometime in the future. And they just can't get there. Instead of having micro decisions tied to this week's mission or this brief purpose, they have too much willpower draining the tanks, and it is an exhaustible resource, is willpower. So it's not a good long-term strategy, and it doesn't last long-term. So yes, why would you plan your entire year? It's too much. Too many things could change. And so then what you do is you say, and we're talking about project management today too. Project management needs detail. I know people say, but the details, like the devils are in the details. And yes, it is very hard if you're thinking about a year-long project. What would that even be? That sounds more like business as usual to me, masking itself as a project. But if you are trying to have some kind of change and it is going to take you an entire year to do, that's why you're doing a project. Allocating, you're doing this, making a strategic decision to allocate resources, whether that's time, money, energy, time of your people, focus, willpower. You're allocating these resources in a limited time to affect change in the world, 80% of what you would like. That's the most realistic expectation for what you're going to get out of the project in a short sprint that people can stay focused and motivated on. That's the goal. You're not going to get that if you're planning a project that's going to take a year. Break that up. Anything that's going to take a year, break it up into what is realistic for this quarter, and you have a quarterly sprint, a 12-week year sprint. And then and you can get pretty detailed on the details of that, then you reassess near the end of that 12 weeks for the next 12 weeks. Don't try to plan for an entire year what you're going to get done, because you're going to try to boil the ocean, and it's going to be you're going to fail, and it's going to be disheartening, and you're not going to want to do any of it then. You're going to say project management doesn't work, and you're going to go back to halfway through the year just running and gunning, doing mostly business as usual, occasionally working really, really late for 5 days to get some launch done because you just didn't allocate time to do a proper project.
Yeah, and we hinted at this. Actually, we talked in depth about this in one of our workshops recently, where if you plan a period of time that's too big and you get too in detail about it, you actually experience something in your brain called loss aversion when things change. So, for example, if you say, let's use like positive affirmations as an example. If you say, "I own a Lamborghini," and you say that over and over and over, and it's your 5-year goal to own this Lamborghini at some point. In 3 years, if you decide, you know what, I'm more of a Ferrari guy, it's actually very hard for your brain to wrap itself around that change because you want the Lamborghini so bad. So this is what came up in the conversation last night was when you plan a year, we were looking, okay, we can look ahead 2024 and get a sense of where we want to go. Please do that. But as far as planning down to the details, let's look back a year. And we were thinking about January of this year, of 2023, and ChatGPT and AI were like just barely coming on the scene. And this was just one example we thought of, but think about how much has changed in 12 months of 1 year. That was a tool that was not used on a daily basis for most people, most individuals, let alone most businesses. And now we're talking about how to incorporate it and run our businesses without us. So much can change over the course of 12 months, which is why 12 weeks, things could change, but we're talking like, the only things that we're going to account for are nukes hitting the planet, which is a very real threat these days. But outside of that, those are the seismic shifts that we need to be, that's going to throw us off our path. But in a short 12-week sprint, we can get a lot of detail down on paper and have an action plan, a marching plan, if you will, that's not really going to be deviated so much. And then in the 13th week, we can review it. And that's where our project management will work versus the whole elephant at once.
The pace of disruptive changes used to be counted in decades. It's now in years, quickly approaching months. So fair point about ChatGPT and how seismic shifts can happen now in much shorter periods of time. And so that's why it used to be 10-year visions or even longer than that were things that corporate companies were talking about now. 5 years are more realistic now. Some are abandoning that for 1 year. We still say 5 years, stake in the ground for that big giant vision. But level of detail, we're not even going 1 year out with that. We're going 3 months, most of that detail being in the first month. Because as we're getting closer, we'll fill in those additional details. Obviously, anything that is a gate or a milestone of some point, of some significance in those 3 months, will have that set. But yeah, for level of detail to execute while still being nimble enough to pivot when something happens, because something will, you have to keep it to a much shorter window.
Yeah. So then let's talk about, we've disrupted the way you think about project management. Hopefully it's not this long-term big thing, but it's still necessary. So what's a tactic, if you will, or what are the elements of a good project management plan? And before Sean answers, I want to say this. So we are diving deep into this today in the Inner Circle with our clients. We're going to go through we use Notion. We're using Notion with them. We're going to go through what this looks like. If you want a glimpse of that and you want to look at how this could be effective in your business, well, come to the Inner Circle, first of all. But reach out. We can get you that help and get you in the Inner Circle so you can do this in your business. But what are the elements that we have on these Notion boards and these templates that you have seen are crucial to an effective project management plan?
Well, how about I answer it this way? How about I just don't answer your question? How about I answer it this way?
Fair.
I'm kidding. I wanted to say one other thing. Brainstorming. So we talked about shortening the window that you're planning for, but the planning itself should take just as much time as it used to. So don't, because you're doing shorter projects, think that means you don't have to do all of the brainstorming ahead of time. Still, most of the project work ahead of time, all that has to still be done. And that's where I think a lot of our clients, they don't understand initially why we're forcing them to go back to the well every time, of saying, let's have a clean slate for every project. Let's talk about our core values, our mission, and our vision. Even if it's a 30-second conversation, because we do it all the time. I don't want people to get to the place where they say, well, that's not necessary. We've done that a lot of times. Let's just do this next project. Because things will be missed. That discipline still needs to be there, even though we're saying we're going to lighten the load on all the important elements of the who, where, when, and why, right? What are interdependencies? We need to know that kind of thing. We need to know why we're doing the project. And we need to know how we're going to communicate, what's the rhythm and cadence of communications, targeted meetings, specific to or asynchronous modes of communication. But let's make sure that open buy-in is had by everybody before the project kicks off. That everyone allocated the project has the time and incentive to do so, that everybody is ritually appreciated for the contribution to that project, that while we have discipline around the execution on the project, and dates mean things and deliverables mean things, yes, we also have fun, because we need to keep everybody motivated. And yeah, winning the Super Bowl is a really hard thing, and there's lots of really hard work to do it. But are you telling me those guys aren't having fun while they're out there on the field? While they're not finding ways to have fun as a team, to gel and appreciate each other? They absolutely are. So that has to be in there too. And then you need to also think about the normalization of every change that you have on a project is also super hypercritical. You don't just say, that's done, let's go. Learn from every project institutionally. Everyone should learn, even if they're not on a particular project, what went right, what went wrong, and how does that affect our project management life cycle and methodology, if at all, and normalize that change. The changes you make through projects, make sure they stick, unless they were bad projects and you realized afterwards you never should have done it. Normalize the change. Get the value from it that's there, that you intended to get. So those are a couple of things that are not changing. Just wanted to say that by us saying there's a different way to do it and you're thinking about it wrong, those things are still hyper important. And so by always taking our clients back to what's the mission and what's the vision, and being able to tie the effect of this project, the change from this project, to moving the vision ahead, our clients get really targeted on what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what kinds of changes they need to normalize at the end to get maximum value from their investment of those resources to conduct the project. Sounds like a whole lot of words to say you get really focused and really good and really, you get really good at executing on projects when and how you should, by just pulling back for a second and saying, let's get all our ducks in a row before we launch. And then we launch with, yes, ferocity, but fun. And we get maximum value from it in short windows of time, not relying on willpower.
Yeah, and let's pause there too, because that's something I think a lot of people miss when you're going through. Okay, so if we have 4 opportunities to go on these 12-week sprints throughout the year, and the 13th week is for revision and then planning the next sprint. If you're not grounding in your company foundation, which navigation, as you mentioned, think about going. I always use this example of traveling from New Jersey to California by car. So think of every quarter as a road stop, a rest stop. If you're not measuring how far you are from the target at each of them, you could be completely off. If you're just going west and you don't have stopping points along the way, you could end up in Mexico or Seattle, not California. So what Sean's getting at there is when you always reference the navigation discipline, your mission, vision, and core values, and you tie your current sprint to it, you're saying, okay, I'm stopping in Chicago, Oklahoma, I don't know enough geography, Denver, and then California on the way, but you can measure, you can keep yourself on track and measure how far you are from each rest stop. If you were shooting for Chicago and you end up in Orlando, you missed. But how do we tie this to business? Well, let's go back to January 2023. If you had a 12-week sprint, then AI came about and you turned yourself into an AI company all of a sudden, but really you're a Segway manufacturer, you missed. You jumped on a trend and you totally missed the target. You have to re-anchor for the second quarter to your mission, to your vision, and make sure your projects are in alignment. So I just wanted to point that out because that's how most companies get off track. And I've done it in the past. I've been so guilty of this where every shiny object is a new opportunity. But most small business owners and entrepreneurs do that because we don't have the foundation to rest on and go back to.
Or they like, we have clients also who like project management. They like being in the tools for it. They like places for it. Oh, we live in Asana. We live in Monday. Okay. And they just like that environment. It feels like they're in control of things because they get to see things and there's bells and whistles and lights and sounds and it's lovely.
Entrepreneur's dream.
Very what?
It's an entrepreneur's dream.
Entrepreneur's dream. And you'll look at you go, wow, 30 projects, huh? Oh yeah. But when you look at how many of them are tied towards right now strategically moving the ball forward this quarter towards a vision, towards where we're trying to go by the end of the year, and based on how much time people have, it's like, well, how many? I mean, and this happens at every company. It happened for me at a Fortune 100 company where they had 50 projects on the board during their big division strategic plan. And I said, how many professional project managers do you have, though, in your PMO? 2. Okay. And how many can they realistically watch over each? 5 or 6. There should be no more than 10 projects up there. Well, everyone else is going to pitch in and all these other, people with full-time jobs doing business as usual work. And I see Janine's name is on that board 11 times as a subject matter expert. Are you telling me these projects are only going to meet once a quarter? Oh no, they're probably going to meet 5 or 6 times for an hour each. Yeah, that's 30 hours for one of those projects. She's on there for 11. When is she doing her job? Oh yeah, and Janine's never going to show up. Yeah, you know how I know Janine's not going to show up? Because Janine's got a bad reputation around here for how she operates on projects because they say she never shows up. How dare you all? Janine's not the problem. I now see the problem. You've over-allocated the poor woman, and she never says no. Of course not. She's afraid she's going to lose her job because you tell her that it's important. You're a leader. Be on all these projects. You're driving her out of here, and she wasn't the problem. The problem is everything's a project because now we like projects, and we're not realistically looking at how much time do people actually have on their plates to effectuate these change initiatives. And is it business as usual masking as a project, or is it projects spilling over into business as usual? So now this is just how we manage everything around here, which is okay to have some discipline to how you're managing everything around here. But that's really what you want from your measurement function. And so now you're masking, you're mingling in measurement into your project management software. So what you're really trying to do is get windows on outcomes. And you're doing it by making everything a project because the project management tool tells you how things are going. We're hunting, we're over the target somewhere, or we're not really right on it with doing it that way. And so what we're saying is by looking at, we're only going to do stuff that's going to really move us. What is the most leverageable things? Now you start to be able to take away. I mean, we worked with somebody recently. They had 20 something projects. Half of them were just, well, this is kind of a thing that's annoying to me. And so, and I don't really know how to fix it as a business leader. I'm not that technical. So I don't know why these two things don't connect, but so it's a project. Well, why are 5 people on it? Well, we really don't know what the problem is. So I just figured I'd put everybody on it. So this was just you saying, I have an issue that as a leader, I think it's beneath me fixing. So I'm just going to throw it to all of my employees and say, I'm going to check on this once a week and see where are we on the solving my issue with why these two things don't connect. That's not a project. What are you doing? And I would say, 6 or 7 of their projects that they had were just those. That's not how it's done. Anyway, I don't want to unpack how it should have been done and all that kind of stuff because nobody wants to hear all that time. But because I think the point has been made.
Well, we're gonna do that. We got to jump over to the inner circle. So we're gonna unpack how you should be planning your projects, what projects should be on your calendar for the first quarter, for the first 12 weeks, and how you make sure you get those done with you, your team, however big your company is. We'll make sure that's done. If you want to see, let's take a step back though, and you want to see the window into your business and where it currently sits, you need some clarity on what's going on. You can't start project planning without that clarity. And you can't know what you can handle without that clarity. So go take our bad assessment here at whadif.com. We'll give you, it's an 8-minute diagnostic. We will show you exactly what's going on in your business and how your current project management is maybe showing up or not showing up successful for you. And we can then plan the path forward. So that's the first step. Go take the bad. We're going to jump over to the inner circle. We're going to help people solidify those 12-week plans and really take action starting next week. I'm excited about the new year. I'm excited about 2024. I know Sean is.
Less projects that are more targeted on the things that are going to give you the most leverage in the first quarter. Less projects, but more of the right projects focused in the right way. You're going to have a great first quarter. I can feel it.
Let's do it. Let's go have a great first quarter. We want to see you in the inner circle, but first step, go take the bad. Let's get that clarity going. We'll see you next